part of what's all gone on for us over these last couple of years, your personal life, everything that's happening on the global, national scale, all the stuff that goes on, the racial tension, the political polarization, and all this stuff it's just so overwhelming. School, kids, decisions, all church life, in services, out digital, all these, and those of you digital, you're living it too. This is a picture of what our souls look like, isn't it? How many of you have a junk drawer in a drunk drawer? How many have a drunk drawer in your, how many of you have a junk drawer? I struggled with that first. How many have one junk drawer? Just say it. Junk drawer, not drunk drawer. Now here's confession time. Confession's good for the soul. How many of you have more than one? Raise your hands, right? This is your life. You need this practice. That is a great illustration of what our souls look like and why this is so important. And the skill of benevolent detachment, because everything is coming at you, not only your own personal stuff, but as we'll see in a moment, everything because of technology and other things. Ultimately, Augustine said it this way: we must empty ourselves, I love this, of all that fills us. We must empty ourselves of all that fills us, junk, in order to be filled with what we're empty of. And that's benevolent detachment. A basic definition is the ability to create a healthy distance between themselves and the thing they have become entangled with. All the concerns about school, the schedule, all the stuff at work, at church, all the stuff that's going on in the country and religion or politics and global crises and monkeypox and donkeypox and elephant pox and all the other poxes, all the Ronas, all the, even the extra lights with all of that stuff going on. And what happens is, because we live in an escapism, that's not what Jesus offers in The Secret of the Yoke. It's equipment. In escapism, I want to help you what detachment is not. And I want to pull from a deep theological movie that was brought out many years ago of an example of what detachment is not. Who's this? Come on, say it with me. And some of you are thinking right now, you're like, okay, you are not going to pick on Disney, are you? And how dare you pick on Elsa? Right? Yeah, you better get this right, Rick or Vicky. Great movie, 2013 already, So my youngest, I remember Abby, you watched it. My youngest watched it. The rest of the kids were too old and stuff. And this is not me picking on Disney. I'm not for, because that's a huge, thing. And this is nothing political. It's just an example of what detachment is not. Now, here's what I want you to do. Some of you, I want you to say it out loud with gusto and with a lot of bravado, because you know it and you care and you're okay in yourself. The number one song of that whole movie was what? Oh, good job. Anybody brave enough want to sing it this morning? No. Now, my ADD kicked in first service. Okay, this is when your brain looks like this, which mine is, with ADD. So I put this together a couple weeks ago, a little bit last week. But when I was going through the reference of Let It Go in first service, it reminded me back in the mid-'80s when I was a rocker in high school, that there was one of my favorite bands was a Japanese rock band called Loudness, and they had their best hit song was called Let It Go. It's not that song, okay? But here's my point. If you really listen to the words, and if you understand the concept of the movie, detachment, benevolent detachment, is not letting it go. Because what she's really saying is the song should be entitled what? I will shut my heart down. If you're emotionally numb, you shut your heart down. If you're irritable, appropriately, the mental health, depressed, anxiety, it's because part of it, I'm going to help you here. I'm trying to help you. There's so much sometimes going on. It's how do you navigate? And the beautiful thing is, what I love about the scriptures, 2,000 years ago, Martha had the same issue. Just like the rest of us, just like me, just like you. Mary figured out the secret of the one thing that's needed. That's why if you even the picture, I mean, a lot of scripture, especially in Revelation, other apocalyptic stuff, it's word pictures. It's not to be taken literally. It's to paint a picture. Like in, whether it's Lord of the Rings or the Chronicles of Narnia, the picture of her ice castle where only she lived is to me a picture to paint. This is what it looks like to shut your heart down, keep everybody out because you've been hurt. You just have no more compassion, which is a big thing going on in our culture and around the world, those of you even in Europe and all, compassion fatigue. You are bombarded left and right with all kinds of notifications, news notifications. There's this trauma, there's this shooting, there's this killing, there's this thing. And then what happens is that's not even taking into account all the personal stuff that you're going through, and there's this fatigue. No more. And our culture might say, escape, let it all go. But ultimately, I think it's that. That's why we're filled with addictions, not just the old subtle addictions of alcohol and drugs. Now it's porn, it's sex, it's work, and even church. And I have to remind you today, because I've had to have Jesus remind me all the time, you are not meant to bear the weight of everything in this world. You are not Jesus. If you didn't know that, here's a little phrase I've been learning, a little ministry we've been a part of with Second Pres, and they're doing a little ministry called Theology on Tap. And we're going to kind of, I think, build our own, so if you have an interest, let me know. But I love the little phrase. It's a discussion. People from different churches are kind of coming, and it's really good. But one of the phrases that he actually shares, actually not one, the phrase he shares every time we do it, and I love it because it creates an aura of safety and humility. There is a God, and I'm not him. Let me just say that again. Well, maybe join me. Maybe you say it today. There is a God, and I'm not him. And that's part of benevolent detachment. But it's not just shutting all the way down, okay? And again, I've already said, part of the reason is there's no more boundaries anymore. There's no more boundaries. How many of you get notifications from ESPN, from CNN, Fox, whatever your news of choice is, doesn't matter. From instant message, from Facebook, Instagram. This is going on, this TikTok, this thing. There's no more boundaries. You are available. I am available 24/7 because of technology. I'm not hacking on technology. I love it and I hate it at the same time. So now people can come into your private world. There's no more space, no more margin, because of all these different things that are going on. And we have created the assumption as a result that we are entitled to enter into anyone's private space at any time. Now, we can't sit back and blame all these things. Here's the beautiful thing. You have a choice. You have a way of choosing. Your lifestyle, my lifestyle, is the accumulation of our choices, our practices. Doesn't mean we can cut everything off and go live in a cave, though. Boy, that does sound good sometimes. But there's a better way to live because it's equipment, not escape. And it's left us with our souls are parched and suffocating. Is it making sense so far? We're suffocating in our souls, it looks like that. Or we get so tuned out because of compassion fatigue, our own stuff, our own stress, our own mental health, our own spiritual health, our own emotional health, that we look like that. And so when Jesus says, if you talk about these last couple of weeks, that I've come with living water, that you'll never be thirsty again. It's like the rain that hit yesterday. We've been so dry, and some of you in England, you guys have been so dry. You start getting rain, you get started getting rain, and it can't even penetrate the soil. Think of these practices over these next 6 to 8 weeks as ways to prep your soil so that your soil doesn't look like that, to receive the living water that Jesus wants to give you. That's why if you've ever been stuck in a quiet time, or you're in small group, or come to church, and you ever been there where you're kind of going through the motions, and it seems like all the things that used to work before are not working now. Anybody ever been there? Raise your hand. Seriously, anybody ever been there? I've been there. So why, again, is all this important? For those reasons. So what is benevolent detachment then? Rick, what is it? One verse I want to give you. And I think it is not the only verse. We'll see the stories of Jesus, but I think it's the verse that, and for me, encapsulate what it mostly is. And it's different than just letting go and shutting your heart down. It's 1 Peter 5:7. Cast all your anxiety on him, letting some things go. But there's a second part. Because he what? You have to receive. You give up and you receive. You give up, benevolent detachment. You let some things go in order to be in the presence and to practice the presence of God. Jesus, the Son of God, did it all the time. We see it in his ministry. That's the yoke. That's the lifestyle. If Jesus needs that, how much more do I and how much more do you need that? The little phrase for me I've learned, I've been sharing the Pause app. There's other apps out there that can help you benevolent, this empathy detachment, because you're not God. I'm not God. You can't carry the weight of the world. I can barely carry my own weight, let alone the weight of other things. That's what serving is. But the phrase I've learned is, I got this from John Eldridge, give everything and everyone over to me. And I've introduced that Pause app. I was talking to somebody, I really appreciate his honesty, a young man, and he says, Rick, I've tried the Pause, I'm struggling. I'm like, I get it. I'm not saying it's a must, you have to, but you got to figure out what works for you. I'm the same way. I'm a type A. I am an Enneagram 8, if you know me. I am go, 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 and I have had to learn silence and solitude, which we'll talk about, this whole pausing throughout my day to practice. It goes against the grain of how I feel like I'm wired, and now I will not do without. And I use this phrase all the time because I'm not God. I can't handle the weight, but he can. What it is that 1 Peter 5:7 is a way of entrusting God with everything and everyone because of his loving care, because he cares for me. It's a reminder, he has done everything for me. That's why when we sing a song like Brandon's saying, I don't deserve anything else. I don't need, you've already blessed me. I forget the exact words, but you know my point. I give everything and everyone over to you, God. Benevolent detachment is not shutting yourself out. It's recognizing the emotions, recognizing the care, recognizing the concerns. It's spending some time with God, and you give those over to him. That's part of what prayer is. But the other part of prayer I was not taught was to receive from God, to sit with God. Mary was doing what was better. The one thing that is needed. Jesus, while it was still dark, got up and went to alone time with the Father.